Measures of center are a way to describe data with one number. Median and mean are generally our measures of center. Mode and range also help describe our data. So I went ahead and put median and mean in red because that is what our measures of center actually are. Mode and range also describe data, but it really doesn't describe the measure of center, which is median and mean. So it makes sense that median would describe measures of center because it is the middle number when data is in order. Okay. Mean is the average of the data set. Okay. Mode is where you're looking for maybe the most frequent piece of data. So mode could be your lowest number in a data set or your highest number in a data set. It's really not in the center. Same with range. Range tells you if your data is close together as a cluster or if your data is very spread out and probably has a gap somewhere in there. And how you find range is you take the maximum number and you subtract, you minus the minimum number. So let's do an example of measures of center and describing our data with mode and range as well. All right, so let's look at median. I've got two different examples, just like in our box plot where we had medians that were actually the middle and medians that were not the middle. So if we look at number one and we want to find the median, first thing we need to do is start marking off from left to right our minimum and maximum numbers. So 7, 25, 8, 17, 10, 17. So right now I have 3 on each side. So 15 is my median of this data. Now looking at number 2, if I start marking them off, 22, 45, 30, 42, 31, 41, my median is between 36 and 37. So you can either mentally find the middle of those two numbers or add them together and divide by 2. So in this case, it'd be 36 and a half is going to be my median for that data set. How do you find mean? Mean is when you take all your data pieces and divide by how many there are. So we need to add 8 plus 12, 13, 16, and 17 together, and I get 66. And then I divide by 5. So you need to add first and then divide. And when I do that, I end up getting 13 and 2/10. So that is the mean for this data set here. All right. So how do so let's do mode and range, sorry. So let's look at number 1. So number 1 up here, which number occurs the most? 17 occurs the most. So in here, this right here is going to be my mode. So again, I'm using that blue like I did on the last board. In number 2, if I look, I have no numbers that occur at the same time. So in this one, I'm going to write no mode. I don't write 0 because 0 could be a number in my data set. So in this one, we have no mode. So let's go back to number 1 and find range. Range is biggest minus smallest, my maximum minus my minimum. So I'm going to take 25 and subtract 7. So my range for the first one is 25 minus 7, and I get 18. And on number 2, I would take 45 and subtract 22. And I get 23 as my range on this one. Okay? Now, which measure of center should I use? Okay, so that's one of the big questions. So we need to determine if we need to find mean or median. So when we look at measures of center, let's look at this one down here. My mean is 13.2. My median is 13. Both of them are pretty much in the center of my data. So in this case, I would definitely use mean because mean is the one that you always should go for first. So when should you not use mean? The only time you should not use mean as a measure of center is if you have any major gaps or you have a stray outlier number in your data set. So looking at this data set, I really don't have any stray values and my numbers are pretty equally spaced out. So that's when you should go with using mean or median. So you always use mean when there's no gaps or outliers, and you should use median if there